I can't do it again. I can't do it again.
Who's been messing up everything? It's been Agatha.
I thought it was now that everything has gone wrong. Oh, is that at the end?
That's
Been
afterwards.
messing up everything.
It's been Agatha all along.
Hello, welcome back to CDMPTV. I'm Saul.
And I'm Caitlin.
And today we're talking about WandaVision. But first, before I forget for the 17th time, we've got camera operators today. Okay, so
That took longer than expected.
We'll get started. So, WandaVision, first Marvel Disney Plus show.
Yes.
Arguably, well, actually, maybe not that arguably, the best Marvel Disney Plus show.
It is the best, no arguments.
And it was really the last time that a Marvel project was like, you had to watch it on the day. It was the event. If you didn't watch it on the day, you were going to get it spoiled and you deserve it.
You were a fake fan if you didn't watch
You were
it.
a fake fan if you didn't watch WandaVision when it first came out. And I wasn't a fake. Were you a fake fan?
I was not a fake fan.
That's good. I wasn't a fake fan either.
That's good to know. I do not want to be sat on the couch with a fake fan.
No, I wouldn't have that much. I mean, you've got the t-shirt. I forgot to bring my t-shirt.
I have the t-shirt. He forgot.
I forgot.
Who's the fake fan now? Anyways.
If I do that, you can't tell.
Should we start with episode 1?
Yeah. So episode 1 and 2 were released at the same time.
Yeah.
Probably because it was such a step away from Marvel's usual formula.
It's really different.
That you needed that proof of concept, and I don't think one episode would have done it.
Yeah, I agree. So, first episode, well, each episode's set in a different era.
Yeah.
Which is already really unique and different.
Fantastic.
So the first one is set in 1950s-ish. Yeah.
It's around the time of, it's basically based off the Dick Van Dyke Show. So some of the shots in the opening sequence literally mirror the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Yes.
Like when he trips over the stool in the Dick Van Dyke Show. In WandaVision, they walk through
it. Yes. I love that
fantastic.
bit. And then we have the calendar as well, which actually isn't a reference to the Dick Van Dyke Show, but this is quite clever because it's 23rd of August, which has the heart above it.
Yep.
And there's been theories that there are exactly 23 Marvel movies that were released before WandaVision, so the 23 could mean that, but whoever sat and counted every single film just to fit that in is
I'd hope if they had the job at Marvel, they'd just know.
They would, yeah.
Although to be fair, even if I don't think people making the movies now know what happened in the last movie of their series sometimes.
I don't even think what they know what's happening in the one they're making.
Just a lot of the time, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I also said about personal relationship is definitely key within all of these episodes, because people like to talk and there's hidden Easter eggs all over the place, so the more the fans will communicate, which is...
I mean, YouTube really went rampant with WandaVision, with the theories, the speculations, the breakdowns, the anticipation, and I feel like that was almost to its downfall.
Yeah.
So for WandaVision, it was a fantastic show, but it got a lot of criticism for its later episodes, with people not being completely satisfied with the reveals and how the show wrapped up. And I feel like if it did I'm going to call it like the Netflix method of just dropping everything at once,
yes,
then there wouldn't have been that time for the speculation to grow, which means that those theories wouldn't have built up and there might not have been as much disappointment at the end.
That is true, that is very true.
But then there wouldn't have been the opportunity for viral marketing without that build up, because during the week to week people talk and more people will be like, oh, that sounds interesting.
And it was the first big show since COVID.
Yes, that as well.
That is also a big factor that could come into place.
And I feel like that's part of its success, is the fact that Marvel fans were finally back as well.
Yes.
After being told we were getting Black Widow and then we weren't getting Black Widow, and then we got the new trailer to Black Widow, which was the same as the old trailer to Black Widow, and then Black Widow still didn't come out.
Don't get me started on the Black Widow rant, do not get me started.
Yes, let's keep on track.
Yes, well, there is another reference with the song Yakety Yak, which Vision sings to distract his boss from his boss's wife from going into the kitchen.
Ironically enough, considering what the song's about.
Yes.
It's very much a product of the time, isn't it?
Yeah, it was released in 1959 by the Coasters, so if it's set in the 1950s, then it's probably
makes sense.
A well-known song for that era.
A little bit sexist though. Yeah. Well, very sexist actually. I was quite surprised when I actually heard the lyrics in the Marvel show, because I knew that it was based off of the time, but I was surprised they had the courage, even when it was based off the time, to play a song like that or sing a song like that.
Yeah, but not many people actually listen to the lyrics so realistically.
It's just there's a robot dressed as a human singing, and that's just as far as people look.
Could be controversial.
It could be
very controversial.
Could be.
We have the adverts. There's adverts which are very clever. There's like adverts, but like they're actually within the show
and the narrative of the world itself.
Which is really, really clever. I remember the first time I watched it, I thought that I'd cancelled my subscription or something. I was like, why is there an advert coming up? But then I clocked on.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting the way they're so creepy, but they start off quite tame and they slowly build. You have the use of the red and the the Stark logo and the repulsor sound. And all of that, it creates an eerie feel, because you know that's not meant to be like that in that advert.
Very immersive as well, yes.
But then as you go on, they get creepier and creepier episode by episode, but I'm sure
and there's more to uncover. Well, the first one in the first episode is for a very fancy toaster, the Toastmate 2000. It's a product of Stark Industries, which in itself is Tony Stark's company, which is quite an easy reference to pick up on. But something I actually found really cool, which I didn't personally discover at first, is that there's a small red flashing light on the front of the toaster, and apparently it's supposed to be like a direct reference to when Wanda and Pietro were kids and they were trapped under the rubble, and there was the bomb which also had the same red flashing light.
I mean, I think it is because you have the repulsor sound, which is the only Tony Stark weapon that she's familiar with, really, because that bomb never went off, and thank God for that, because then we wouldn't have Wanda. Although maybe not thank God for that. She did kill a lot of people after this show.
Yeah, but you have to forgive her.
It's Elizabeth Olsen.
It's Elizabeth Olsen. Come on, we forgive Elizabeth Olsen.
We definitely do. Yes. But it's interesting that you have that flash of red, because other than that, this episode's completely black and white.
Yes.
And that adds to the eerie feel.
It's a very binary opposite of the colour red versus black and white, Levi Strauss theory.
And the way they use the colour in the episode and just the eeriness of that advert. The advert itself creates an enigma that is carried throughout the show and isn't revealed until, I believe it's episode 8, when Agatha takes her through her past.
Yes, and we can also talk about the connotation of the colour red. It could mean different things, the love and the passion of Wanda and Vision's relationship, and then the danger of everything going on.
But then also quite literally, Vision's red, Wanda's outfit is red.
Wanda's
powers
are red, yeah.
Just everything about the show really does revolve around
which could also be quite a conventional colour for both the sitcom genre and the action genre.
100%.
Yes. Moving on.
Episode 2?
Episode 2, let's do it.
Don't touch that dial.
Set in the 1960s this time. The opening credits scene in this one is actually a complete, just direct reference to Bewitched, which is a 1964 sitcom. On my t-shirt I actually have the opening a screenshot, if you will, from the opening scene. But yeah, the animated style, the black and white colours, the same text font are all the same as they are in Bewitched, which is very clever.
Yeah. I mean, it's an easy reference for a mainstream audience to pick up on as well, even if you haven't watched the show, or you went live when the show's coming on and then you've watched it later. For whatever reason, you know what Bewitched is, and you recognise it.
Yes, 100%. Also, at the beginning of the episode, we have the scene where they're in separate beds.
Yes.
And then Wanda switches them together to a double bed, and that could just correlate to the historical shift in cinema at that time, because obviously it wasn't allowed because of the Hays Code. They weren't allowed to, and then, but also that also did happen in Bewitched, and it was the first sitcom to break that trope. Yeah. Which is nice that they did a little homage to that.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that they actually give it a narrative reason behind doing that as well. It's not just for the reference, they do it because they're scared and they want to be together, but then the reason they're scared is actually important for the narrative going forward.
And that could appeal to an explorer audience, because, you know, exploring the different inverted conventions and why they might have happened.
Yeah. It's also a little bit of a Chekhov's gun in terms of the way that pays off later on. They've set it up and then they do eventually pay it off. That gun has to fire, and it does.
Yes, it fires, yes. Well, also at the end of the episode, we actually have the helicopter, the toy helicopter, and this was really clever because the helicopter itself is entirely in colour, and obviously everything else is still in black and white.
Yeah, I mean, it's that repeated way of creating Enigma that uses uses colour itself in a black and white environment to create that mystery, and also the colour red. Again, it's almost like it represents. It's almost like it represents reality. Everything that's
Infinity
real,
Stone.
that's breaking through.
Red Infinity Stone.
Yes, it is as well.
And then also red, obviously Wanda's powers, like we mentioned, but then also the helicopter itself is another product of Stark Industries, and if you look closely, there is yellow on the helicopter as well, so red and yellow could just be Iron Man.
Iron Man colours, and it flies.
Yes, it flies. That could also
yellow
be
and flies.
Stuart Hall's reception theory. Everyone has different readings of what the colour could mean.
Exactly. Is that everything to say for episode 3? We got introduced to some more side characters in episode 2 as well that actually played a relatively big role later on. I mean, we got introduced to Dottie, who gave some small problems.
A very unique character.
A very unique character. Everyone was thinking Dottie was going to be a witch. I mean, she might be. We've got Agatha, Coven of Chaos coming.
I did think that there was going to be something more sus going on with her.
Yeah, and it's when we first made contact with the outside world, I believe.
Yes, yeah.
We didn't.
Think so.
There was no interaction with the outside world in episode 1. Was the real mystery was when?
No, it was where it was in
Mr. Hart started choking.
Yes.
That was the real mystery there, but then episode 2 we start seeing that the real world is infiltrating her. Well, what we now know to be her hex.
When we had the little distortion moment of the radio.
And the way they have Jimmy Woo say it, Wanda, who is doing this to you.
Yes.
It puts it in the back of the mind that Wanda is the victim here, just for that twist to be that, well, she isn't.
Creates a lot of enigma as well, because it just completely ends that episode on that cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So.
And that was where they left you for the week as well. With episode 1, it didn't necessarily need that cliffhanger because they released the 2 episodes at once.
But this left you waiting,
it's
wondering what was going to happen.
It's the standard TV format, really, isn't it? If you leave the cliffhanger to bring them back next week.
Yes, yeah.
It's the only way to avoid doing it next time on, really, isn't it?
Yeah, which is quite cheesy.
I also think it's interesting to mention the previously on section as well. While we're on that kind of vein of things.
Yes.
The way she becomes more and more sick of saying the previously on week by week. Not only does it represent her mental state, but it represents how close we are to that reality breaking every single time.
That's clever, that is very clever.
With her being very perky at the beginning and then just being completely sick of it by the end when the reality's over. It's almost like reality is not as fun as being in a TV show.
That's very deep.
Very deep.
Episode 3?
Episode 3.
Episode 3, Now in Colour. Set in the 1970s, roughly. We can already see by the title that we're going to shift from black and white to colour.
We're in colour now, and isn't that how episode 2 ended? Did we not see?
Yes, just at the end.
Because we also got the beekeeper in episode 2, didn't we? Because that was still in black and white, and then we have the skip back, and she's pregnant.
Yeah, because it's really clever because they do like the glitch between like what like happened in reality and then what happened like in the TV show, which is quite complicated.
And
but
it also plays on the trope that you see in sitcoms, a lot of characters getting pregnant and then getting really pregnant and then having a baby, then the baby next week's a toddler and then they're a teenager by the time we're at the end of the season, and then...
Which we will kind of cover in the next episodes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's played on quite a bit.
Yes, so back to episode 3 then. It's kind of obviously...
I've lost episode 3. Episode 3, now in colour.
It's obviously a homage to just the introduction of colour in TV in general.
Yeah.
Pretty much every TV around in the 1970s had that colour option now. Yet again, focusing on the opening credit scenes, they seem to like the opening credit scenes to link to another sitcom. This time we have the Brady Bunch.
Yes. Not to be mistaken with the Marvel Bunch.
I absolutely love that song. I've learnt the entire song.
Who hasn't? You know,
fake fans haven't.
If you haven't learned it, you're a fake fan.
Yes.
You're not wearing your One Division t-shirt either.
That's you. Anyways, so they have the same hexagonal tiles and text font again in One Division as the Brady Bunch. And also, this is really, really clever actually. So, you know when Vision is practicing changing the nappies on this doll? It's actually the exact same doll as the little girl Cindy has for like the entirety of the series is in the Brady Bunch. It's
I didn't know that.
It's the exact same doll. So that would appeal to many different audiences, mainstream if they've watched it.
I mean, it's like what we were on about earlier with it. It is an easy reference to make, but it also narratively, she grew up on these shows. The reason she's created this reality around these shows because that's what she's seen. So it makes sense that the doll she sees will be the doll that's from the show.
That's a nice little hidden Easter egg.
Yeah.
Oh, we have the iconic pose which Wanda and Vision strike when her pregnancy starts to cause chaos in the house. The one where they're like, wow, that one. Yeah.
Yes.
Just thought I'd do a little visual. This is a homage again to Vision and Scarlet Witch 1 comic book because the pose on the front cover is actually really similar to the pose that they strike. So that's a little hidden Easter egg. Which mainstream Marvel fans I'm sure will like picking up on that reference. Yeah. So episode 4 isn't really...
Was it not episode 3 also that the twins were born?
Yes.
Yes. I think we do need to mention Wiccan and Speed, or Billy and Tommy.
We do need to mention, yes.
Otherwise no one.
I have forgotten about the children.
They play a big role towards the end of the show, but they almost become like... I don't know, like they're less so characters by the end, are they? They're more MacGuffins than anything else. Like Agatha's using them to make Wanda want them, to make Wanda give her powers. Yeah. And then then we'll get to what happens to them later on, I guess.
I guess the children, in a way, could you say, are kind of like the Prothean princesses. It's like Wanda has to save them to...
It's almost like the opposite,
Yeah.
But then so far to this point in the show, we've been presented as Wanda as the Prothean princess. She's the one that's being trapped here, and Jimmy Woo's over the radio trying to save her. Yeah, good old Jimmy Woo. And then we've got Monica Rambeau, who goes by, what's her name in the Hex? Anyone know Monica's name in the Hex?
Monica, what's it called?
Geraldine.
Geraldine.
I'm pretty sure her name is Geraldine when she's in the Hex.
It is Geraldine, yes.
Geraldine. So we introduced her character in episode 2 very briefly, but she really comes through in episode 3.
She does, yes.
It's the biggest break in the reality we've had because she helps her have the children and everything's breaking around them in a funny sitcom style. Yeah, and we get a slight this is a bit like... Don't really know how to put it in words. It's weird, but it's what we've seen from the show. It's goofy magic really that suits too Wanda. Much from it, yeah. But then by the end, she mentions Ultron. Wanda mentions her brother, and then she mentions Ultron, and that's the first time we've really seen anything about the greater MCU outside of a reference to Stark Industries or a little bit of sound. Kind of like it reminds us that we are watching a Marvel series still, rather than just And it reminds Wanda of her life, and she doesn't like that at all. And then Geraldine's gone. Yes. and that ties us straight
through
into
the wall. She goes through the wall.
Through the wall.
Through
But we
the
don't actually
wall.
see that till next episode, do we? Don't we just skip to
We
seeing
do see it in
Vision,
the next episode, yes.
and then we see the corpse Vision.
Yeah.
Very creepy corpse Vision.
Yeah.
And then we get, it might be the first fourth wall break of the show with Monica and Vision, Wanda and Vision on the couch. When Vision looks over the TV and looks us right in the eyes before cutting to credits. And Paul Bettany does a very good job in the show of just having little subtle
really
facial
subtle
expressions and
hints,
using his eyes to really
draw us in.
Yeah, and it almost makes you feel ill. The way he looks at you with pure dread.
It's like you feel really you feel like you want to help.
You feel scared for him because he's clearly aware that something's not right, but he isn't in enough control to go away from it because, as we see throughout the show, he is going along with the narrative.
He is, yes.
And then after that, we're on to episode 4, and we leave the Hex for a little bit.
Yeah, episode 4 doesn't really have too much intertextuality. It focuses kind of more on S.H.I.E.L.D. rather than Wanda and Vision themselves.
I feel like episode 4 does a lot of the heavy lifting narrative-wise that the first 3 episodes didn't, so that going forward from there, we can get what the actual story of the show is rather than a week-by-week sitcom.
Yes.
Which is where the non-linear narrative comes in
I
by
don't know
going
if
through
this is an
the episodes.
unpopular opinion, but I'm not the biggest fan of episode 4.
Oh, really?
I feel like you get so into the whole sitcom idea, this is going to be great, and then it's suddenly just no, this is not true.
I feel like
it's good, obviously, because it kind of reminds
it's part of WandaVision, so it's a good episode.
It is Marvel, yeah.
I feel like it does a good job of introducing everyone that we haven't seen so far that is going to be important.
Yeah, that is true.
And it gives us an idea of the narrative. Sword's here to try and help with the Hex situation, save the people who have been captured, and it does really make it very clear that everyone in the show is real, bar Vision, who we're still not sure on.
Yeah. We kind of start to get those
and we get some suspicions about the twins and how real they'll be.
Yeah.
With them being mentioned to have been created and not being a random baby that she's stolen from someone for her story.
Stolen child.
Stolen child.
That would be a different story.
Very different story. I mean, to be fair, that is basically the story of Multiverse of Madness, is Wanda trying to steal children. It's just they're her children from other hers, so it's not as bad. But it's still multiversal kidnapping. It's
Doctor Strange in the multiverse of kidnapping.
Doctor Strange in the multiverse of kidnapping. It's probably the more accurate title, to be fair.
Yes. Well, should we move on to episode 5 before we get
Yes, we should.
Kidnapping?
One last thing with episode 4 though. We get one last bit of Agnes suspicion when she is the only one that they don't successfully ID.
Yeah.
They go through the residents that we've seen in Westview so far, and it does a good job at just casting suspicion on her more than the previous episodes have.
Yeah.
She seemed weird in the previous episodes, but this time we see that if you're paying attention, there's something off about her. She doesn't exist.
Wrong. Yeah. And I think she's a really interesting character, but
Very
we'll probably
interesting
get onto that more.
Yes, we will.
Yes. So, episode 5.
On a very special episode.
Set in the 1960s. I personally... 1980s, I can't read. Personally, I do like this episode though, because I was a big fan of Full House, and it has a lot of Full House references, as well as
including the main actress.
The main actress herself.
Baby sister of the Olsen twins, who were first known for Full House.
First known for Full House. Elizabeth Olsen even said in an interview that she really enjoyed the homage to Full House because she kind of grew up on that set with her twin baby sisters. So.
Which, I mean, it shows how much detail went into the set design and the costume design on the show, and
even
all the props.
Costume, if you've noticed, Wanda's costume in that episode, it's pretty much the exact same as Pamela's costume. Like,
I mean,
even the hair.
It says something that it can not only make an audience nostalgic when it's on screen, but it can make an actor nostalgic for being on set of a show that they weren't even in so long ago.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy how much detail had to have gone into it for it to have that effect.
I really love the opening credits scene again of this one, because they incorporated all 3 of the sitcoms, Family Ties, Growing Pains and Full House.
Yeah.
So we have a bit where there's a family painting of WandaVision, Billy and Tommy.
The way it's painted is quite
It's the
eerie
exact
as well,
same
isn't
as
it?
Family Ties. They have the exact same like painting kind of trope, I guess. And then we have Wanda and Vision when they were children, the pictures of them, which is really funny because the ones of Wanda is actually Elizabeth Olsen when she was younger.
But then I like how they've gone out the way to make baby Vision was, because obviously Vision was never a baby.
Baby Vision is Baby Vision in the pictures. He's a little mini robot.
It's a mini robot.
It's quite creepy but cute, I guess.
That version of Vision had a very different first few days of life. He didn't have to defeat a genocidal robot, so he probably had a bit of more of a chilled upbringing.
But again, them photos are a reference to growing pains because they use photos of the actors when they were little. And then the Full House references, we have the shot of them having a picnic in the park, and then the shot which is at like a low angle when they're like running through the park is like literally the exact same in both WandaVision and Full House, which is really cool. And then the house is pretty much the exact same.
The house is very, very close. It's almost creepy, isn't it?
It's almost as if they've literally just filmed it on the exact same set, like nothing's changed. But yeah.
I feel like this episode does a lot in terms of the twins.
Yes, it does, yeah.
It's the first episode where we see the twins outside of the last couple of minutes, and we get introduced to how they can age themselves up as and when they want to.
Very weird.
The way it happens also casts more suspicion on Agnes. The fact that she shows up, gets left with them for a second, and all of a sudden they're gone.
And she suddenly doesn't, and like somehow she doesn't even notice it.
She
doesn't pick up on the fact that they've just aged 10 years.
She doesn't care. They've grown up, they're so much older, and then her only response is, what? They grow up so fast or something? Like.
Yeah, she's like, they grow so fast, don't they, or something. Like, what? Why would
you can't
question it?
Like, they grow up fast, but not like several years in
a second.
Like,
it's very weird.
It's very strange, but that's what this show builds on. It's built on enigma.
It is.
It keeps you interested.
And kind of the difference between like reality and.
You could shout about enigma codes just for half an hour straight when talking about this, just because there's that much to talk about when it comes to the mystery that it sets up.
Pretty much every single thing you see in that sparks some sort of enigma, whether it becomes relevant or not.
At least for episodes 1 through 7.
Yeah, 100%. Should we move on to episode 6?
I feel like
everything.
I feel like we should.
So episode 6 is the Halloween one, all new Halloween spooktacular.
It's amazing.
It's set around the 1990s and the 2000s. This one kind of covers both. But it's a popular sitcom to Malcolm in the Middle.
Yes. And that means we get a lot of glances at the camera, talking to the audience. The fourth wall breaks, at this time less eerie and more interesting and entertaining.
It's very kind of comedic approach this time.
And the comedy of this episode is aided by one very special character who was introduced at the end of last episode, a stunt casting that drove the internet crazy. And that is Evan Peters as Pietro Maximoff, aka Quicksilver, but from the Fox X-Men franchise.
Which is really clever.
Considering we'd been told that we were delving into the multiverse, and then you introduced him, it was obviously going to get audiences very excited.
Yeah.
And I almost think Marvel didn't understand how excited, because it made a lot of fans very disappointed when the whole Ralph Boner joke came up, which it would have been funny if it wasn't Evan Peters. The fact that they got the Quicksilver that everyone wants to see again back, it was a large oversight on Marvel's part.
It does make us question about the multiverse and whether, well, not even necessarily whether it is real or not.
Where does the idea of a variant come in? Is it's not just appearance, because the Spider-Men look different, but they don't have to look different because most of the Lokis look the same.
Yeah.
So where's the line? How come someone can look the same but not be the same person?
Yeah.
It's very messy when you think about it, so it's probably best not to think about it.
Very complicated. I feel like ABC One audience members especially will enjoy the complicatedness.
Yeah, they can understand that until they are told explicitly that this is someone from the multiverse, that they can theorise on it but not take it as an absolute fact, because they haven't been told that, and while they can infer it, they understand that with a show that sets up so much mystery, and makes you question so much that you shouldn't take anything you're told as gospel.
Yes.
At all.
And on that note, should we move on to the next episode?
I want to very quickly mention costume, because I love the costume.
Costume.
And this is the episode where Vision really breaks free as well.
Yes. How did I forget costume?
Costume. It goes back to the classic costumes that Elizabeth Olsen was actually told she was never going to have to wear when she signed on to Wanda.
She did not want to wear that costume.
When she first signed on, I mean, it's another product of the times, really, isn't it? The costume itself might not have been far. It was a couple of decades before this, really, wasn't it? But
yeah, it was. Yes.
I don't think a drastic change would have happened around this time. And the way that they used it's a Sokovian fortune teller. Like, I don't know, I feel like they didn't need to explain it, but I'm glad that they did give it an in-universe explanation, because why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be a strange costume for it to just randomly pick otherwise.
Like just have, well, magically make appear.
Exactly.
Vision's costume is...
It's fantastic.
It's hilarious. I mean, you've got like Wanda over here looking amazing, I must say, and then you have Vision just rock up. In the
goofiest, most clearly fabric costume ever, and he's taking it completely seriously.
Tights underneath the shorts, it's yeah.
And he's saying he's going to go and make sure the kids aren't getting up to trouble in the neighbourhood.
Yeah, no one questions it. No one questions it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention that this is the episode where Vision really starts to break free.
Yes.
Like, Vision lies to Wanda, and he goes off on his own story. He goes and tries to find a way out of Westview and see what's going on. Yeah. And when he gets to the edge of town, that is some of the creepiest stuff we've seen in the show so far.
It made me feel very uneasy. It was weird.
Yeah, it's creepy.
It is quite creepy.
But I feel like it does a good job, and it also, again, Agnes is just there to be creepy and to make you question her.
She's just always in the background.
She's always
like,
she's always
watching.
She's always seeming innocent, but up to no. But you
really
know she's
not.
up to no good, especially if you're a Marvel fan, or even just an ABC1 audience member who knows, like, Agnes probably has more to do with this.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, Marvel fans knew as soon as they were told Agnes was a character, that was Agatha Harkness.
That something was going to happen. We knew that she wasn't just going to be there in the sitcom trope. We knew something darker was going to happen.
But it's the way that you don't know for sure, and she's just there. She's always there, and it's such a creepy area. Like, there's no colour there.
Yeah.
Everywhere else there's like pumpkins, bright costumes, lights everywhere, kids running around. It's the first time we've seen kids in the show other than Wanda's.
Although they then become frozen.
And then they get frozen again. It's a very creepy episode.
It is very creepy.
And it shows how it almost hints at Agatha having her own consciousness that other people don't. And it shows that Vision clearly does have his own at this point.
Yeah. We kind of like alluded to the idea that like Agnes is like a greater being almost. Yeah. Very like omnipotent. Yeah.
And then the episode ends with Vision breaking out of the hex and starting to disintegrate. Good foreshadowing for later on in the show.
I fully believed that he was just going to die.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
And it's the first time we knew Hayward was up to no good, but it's the first time we saw how dark he really was just watching Vision die there.
Didn't do anything at all.
And then Wanda expands the hex because we see that the twins have now got the powers, which Tommy has his speed, but Billy is basically his mum's powers and can sense that there's something wrong with his dad.
Yeah, which is it's very cool when that happened. When he knew something was wrong, I was like...
It makes me excited to see the characters going forwards as well.
Yeah, more character development. I feel like we've got a lot more that we can explore with the characters.
Yes. And we do get a little bit more of that in the last 3 episodes.
Yeah, we do.
Which, speaking of, probably move on to episode 7.
Episode 7.
The last episode based on a sitcom of the show.
Breaking the fourth wall.
Which, if you can't tell what it does, it breaks
the fourth wall.
It's
this is primarily set in the 2000s again. Although we have references to sitcoms now that everyone's probably more familiar with.
This is where your younger audience really thrives.
Can relate.
Majority of your Marvel audience, I feel.
Modern Family and The Office.
The Office is probably the most notable one for a lot of people.
Yeah. Opening sequence, yet again, surprisingly enough, has the same title card and black background and text font as Modern Family. But also the jingle that's in the background
of The Office
is the exact same as The Office.
And now that you've mentioned that jingle, I feel like it's a good time to mention, now that we've been through all the opening sequences,
We have,
if I haven't mentioned it already, is the repeated motif With like that WandaVision motif that you hear very explicitly in the first episode with the actual words WandaVision.
Yeah.
It's in every episode, and it's also used as her character introduction in Multiverse of Kidnapping.
We're just changing the name.
It's the name now.
We've decided.
It's that motif that really that really signifies that Wanda is in the show. We've just spotted something.
It was Agatha all along.
It's noted in every song other than "It was Agatha all along" because that isn't Wanda's song. That's Agatha's, so that motif isn't actually there.
Song.
And it's probably the best song of the show.
100%. Very unique selling point.
Yes.
It's great.
Is that all the songs were so listenable, were so easy to listen to. I mean, it's the people that made Let It Go, for God's sake. Like they know how to make a catchy song.
They know how to make songs. But Agatha All Along was brilliant. I can't even describe it.
It was
so good.
But we're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
For now, we've still got episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall. So, like we said, it's based off The Office and Modern Family. We get the interview style. We get shown that
so much.
When Wanda's getting interviewed quite early on, you think it's like a man's voice at first.
Yeah.
Turns out it was Agatha
all along.
It was Agatha all along.
Funnily enough.
It's actually Catherine Hahn's voice. They just pitched it down.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know
and
that.
I think it was
really
clever because
clever.
if you're paying attention, you can notice it.
You can notice her voice if you know.
But if you know what you're listening for, but until then, you have no idea.
I did not pick up on that. I'm gonna have to rewatch.
Yeah. So I think it's a strong episode.
Yeah.
But there's not much noteworthy apart from this is the one where Monica breaks into the hex.
Yeah.
This is where the hex starts falling apart around Wanda because people are breaking in, people are breaking out. People know what's happening around them and why it's happening.
You see Wanda getting a lot weaker.
She's
starting to.
And she's kind of sick of it at this point. Like when I was on about the previously on segments, this one she really sounds like she's done with it. She wants Vision, she wants her kids, but she doesn't want the sitcom life. It's not for her anymore. It's been stressful enough.
She's just gonna leave it to her twin sister.
That can be for the older siblings. They have more experience.
Yeah.
So in this episode, Wanda has a lot of trust issues with Vision. She doesn't want him anywhere near her. Yeah. And Monica breaks in and she doesn't trust her.
Either. She doesn't trust anyone. She doesn't trust herself.
It's a very distrusting episode.
Yeah, it is.
And the way that Agnes uses that to take the twins and capitalise on the moment where Wanda's at her weakest it's genius, really. She takes the twins and it leads to a very creepy sequence of Wanda being in her house with the cockroach on the wall.
There's a lot of creepy sequences.
Yeah,
that kind of
and the rabbit that was meant to be a demon. Why didn't Senior Scratchy become a demon? He should have. I'm very disappointed that got cut. Because that's another example of the fan speculation that really drove the success of the show. Yeah. That kind of backfired later on. When we've been able to speculate for so long.
It kind of kept mentioning him and yeah.
Okay, episode 8. We're out of sitcom world. Wanda has discovered who Agnes is. And we at this point have now heard the wonderful song.
It was Agatha all along.
It's Agatha all along.
I'm not going to sing it.
We've sung it enough today.
But she killed Sparky too.
She killed Sparky.
Although you should have already watched it.
I'll never forgive her. You can't kill the dog, it's so wrong. Anyway.
Someone should have killed Signal Scratchy.
Episode 8 and 9, I feel like we can group these together.
Yeah.
Because they're very similar. Episode 8 just takes us through the past. It's how we got here, and it's the history of Wanda past what we've seen before. It's how she got her powers, clever. It's her time at Hydra. It's the story of the bomb, and it really makes clear why a lot of the adverts that happened. Yeah. Especially that first one with the bomb, and the second one with the Hydra watch.
Also, he did say that there's not really much intertextuality, but I just remembered the scene when we go right back to her childhood. Obviously, she's watching Dick Van Dyke. But like in like the box, when he was looking through the box of all the sitcoms, there is most of the ones that we have mentioned.
And more.
And more. Like I Love Lucy, it's called I Love Lucy. things like that, yeah.
So we go through Wanda's past and we get back to modern day when for the first time we hear Wanda by her comic book title, The Scarlet Witch.
Love it.
And we cut to black.
Very enigma.
We also get the post-credit scene.
A lot of enigma, again.
At this point we've also had post-credit scene establishing that Pietro isn't Pietro and he's a bad guy, and that we now have White Vision on the scene.
Yeah.
All tying into episode 9. When this is the episode that a lot of fans had a problem with because we really left the sitcom style
genre
and got back to classic Marvel. Classic Marvel, you've got your action, you have good guy fighting bad guy with the exact same powers twice. We have Vision literally fighting Vision. It is everything that Marvel is criticised for on such a
big risk.
Scale.
It's a big risk because going from obviously the sitcom and the comedy kind of slowly drifting away
it's
and
ironic
then going completely into action.
It's very ironic because the sitcom style early on was the risk, and now going back to the normal formula is a risk in itself.
The actual Marvel genre is a risk.
So in this we see that Vision and White Vision are fighting. But they end up fighting with words.
Yeah.
And then Vision transfers his memories into White Vision. White Vision flies off to be seen in probably, let's be honest, Avengers 5, Avengers 6, the Young Avengers, whatever we want him in. He's there now. Paul Bettany still has a paycheck, basically. Wanda versus Agatha, that uses ruins that were established earlier on in that episode, in episode 8. Again, it kind of spoils it because once you're introduced to ruins and then the ruins are in the previously on segment, you know what's happening.
Yes.
But action set piece, blah de blah de blah.
But
happy ending. We get the Incredibles moment of the family ready to fight.
It is
Here
kind
was defeated.
of planting the seeds for future films,
Yes,
though.
it
We
does.
still have a lot of enigma at the end of the
there's
episode.
still a lot of questions.
And obviously that could be, we've got Agatha's solo film series.
Which I can't wait to see Joe look in. He's going to be Wiccan. He better be Wiccan. Then we've got Monica meeting the Skrulls ready for Captain Marvel.
Yeah, carrying on the legacy or establishing a new legacy.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of what Phase 4 does, is ties that in between.
Yeah.
For as much as it's criticised, it does transition into a new era. It's just whether fans receive that era well.
Yeah, which could be risky again. It's just Marvel's full of riskiness.
Yes.
Which
very risky these days.
You know,
just releasing a Marvel film is risky these days, and it's kind of sad.
Because mainstream audience members could, drift away from escapism.
There's a lot of Marvel fatigue, isn't there?
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll have more things like WandaVision coming soon, since they're really seeming like they're slowing down.
WandaVision Part 2.
Agatha's coming back.
I cannot wait.
I don't know if they're gonna go back to the old Marvel formula, if they're establishing a new one, if there's not going to be a formula at all.
We'll
just have to wait and see.
Who knows? We don't know what to expect these days.
No, we don't. But that's half the fun of it, I guess.
Yeah.
I have faith. In Feige, I trust.
Yes.
Is that us done? I'm waving, but I don't know if that's us done.
That is us done, yes.
Goodbye.
Bye.